I was color grading log footage when I realized I haven't pointed my camera in real sunlight for a few weeks. So I grabbed my gear and took the ferry from Marina South Pier. 15 minutes later, Singapore's skyline dropped behind the horizon and I hit this tiny island that felt like a different country. There was no neon, no steel and glass, just 100-year-old temple, marble tortoises. I need to see what ungraded reality still looks like. The ferry leaves from Marina South Pier, which sits among concrete and container crane as far as I can see. You board with commuters and maybe a few devotees carrying incenses, and then the engine kicks in and the mainland starts shrinking. It's only about 5.6 kilometers south, but roughly about 15 minutes on the water, but the distance feels bigger than the numbers suggest. Singapore's skyline turns into a thin strip of glass and steel, and then nothing but open water and old cargo ship on the horizon. The engine noise fades into a dull hum. Salt air replaces exhaust, and you realize you haven't heard actual silence in weeks. By the time the hull scrapes against the jetty, you are already in a different headspace. The island has no permanent residents, nobody lives there, the government doesn't allow it, so the quiet runs deeper than absence of traffic. It's absence of people, building, buying, optimizing, rushing. It's a sound of place that refuses to keep up with the city he left behind. And that's exactly why a temple from 1923 still sits there waiting. Kusu means Tortoise Island in Hokkien, and the name isn't decorative. The legend says a giant turtle turned itself into a land to save shipwrecked sailors during the 9th lunar month. They survived, came back the next year to give thanks, and the island became a place of worship ever since. When you walk out from the jetty, the first thing you see is the Bo Gong Temple. It was built in 1923 by a wealthy businessman, which means it hits its 100-year anniversary recently, and it sits there like it has nowhere else to be. The roofs are painted in red and gold, and they have faded where the sun hits hardest. And marble tortoises statues are scattered around the grounds like they are guarding this place. You are standing on what used to be two tiny reef outcrops before 1975 reclamation turned them into 8.5 hectares of solid ground. During the pilgrimage seasons, thousands of devotees show up from Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Thailand, but most of the year, the island is nearly empty, like what I have today. And the hawker center, with its eating stalls, unfortunately, because of the low traffic, sits quietly now. But here, what really hit me the hardest, it wasn't the myth, it was the light. On the mainland, you are surrounded by steel and glass reflecting neon, LED panels pumping out color temperatures and fighting each other, and street lights that turn skin orange before you even roll the camera. On Kusu Island, the palette is completely different. You get warm temple reds against oxidized jade greens, turquoise water heating fringing reefs, and natural skin tones in day sunlight, and don't need a white balance at all or color space transform. Nobody graded this island. The colors are just there, so modernly developed, doing what they actually do without the 32-bit float math behind them. As someone who spends hours in DaVinci Resolve pushing the PFA Color Suite and adjusting the looks, it humbled me. Fringing reefs around the island were even flagged in the Singapore Blue Plan 2018 as a site for coral nurseries. Nature doesn't need post-production. It just needs you to show up and look at it before you try to recreate it on a timeline. I shot more useful reference footage in 2 hours on the island than 2 weeks of city B-roll. And every single of the hut is so nicely designed. You can just sit quietly against the ocean, listen to the wind, and enjoy your time here. I took the ferry back at noon due to the meetings in the afternoon, and the weird thing was, the city looked different now when I'm on the way back. The skyline felt imposing on the way out, just looked busy, like a render farm that never stopped calculating. Singapore runs on efficiency and forward motion, but Kusu Island runs on its own clock. The best color grading doesn't come from adding more looks or stacking notes. It comes from the simplicity and remembering what really looked like before you touched it. If you want more videos where I shoot first and worry about the grade later, subscribe, because sometimes the best reference monitor isn't a screen, it's 15 minutes away. Thank you for watching until here. We are midway through this production, so stay a bit longer to enjoy the full color grading breakdown with PFA Color Suite on this episode of Documentary. Let's go. Hi everyone, welcome to this episode of PFA Color Suite, the truly AI color grading pipeline and assistant built for yourself. So today we are looking at how we do the entire color grading for this episode. So let's take a look. So the steps is very simple. So 13.3 we also updated in the free trial. From hearing the users' opinions, we have upgraded the trial timing to 60 minutes. And once you hit the 60 minutes, there'll be a dimming. You can close the software to refresh again, so you have the longest time. You can test out everything before you make the decision on purchasing. So today we are looking at 13.3, which is already released, and we can look at the grade with AI feature. Just one click, you are able to get the lot to Red 709. So no longer required to search for the color space transform. It will save so much of the time and color correction exposure and correction white balance. The goal of these steps is to return the color to what you see on set. And one thing you notice, you can always refine with a lot exposure and delogify to get a very nice outcome controlled by you, because sometimes the analysis can be doing a completely different result, maybe not as expected, especially they had lighter bars or more blacks in the frame. But it's already very accurate, so you can fine-tune. Once you have done this, you can go to CinePalette AI, which you can do AI training right now. Can you imagine? You have done the grade with all the parameters. You can save it as an AI training. And once you have done, you just need to generate look. One click, it will filter through all the past samples and past what you have done. You can change the film look intensity as well. So you will go through different variations and tastes that you have done in the past to give you a grade. For example, look at how much nice density has introduced to this frame, and no matter how much you push, you won't be able to see any noise in the shot. That's how powerful this engine is. You can lower the intensity, of course, then we'll give you a totally different results and past work, and you will get a very phenomenal training. Okay, let's start from scratch and learn how to train exactly your AI and how to do all the things. So we just grade with AI influence, correction exposure, correction white balance. So 13.3 is really very stable and powerful in terms of the analysis, and it will give you a very phenomenal result. From here, we got a lot to Red 709, but you realize something. The saturation from the original manufacturer is being stripped away by percussion lock. So that's the decision we make actively, so it's easier for you to sync multiple different camera on the same production. So to bring back the color, we can go to Film Spectral Contrast. It's extracting every single sensor and image data in your file. So we can just increase the red contrast, lower the blue contrast a little. This is enough to create a very vibrant and natural image right away. With these steps, I would say just these correction groups and film spectral contrast, you can get a very natural look. And regardless of what camera you try it, be it pocket camera, be it Arri Alexa, all the lock in the world, you no longer need to find the mapping for CST. This will do it perfectly. So once you've done this step, you can go to film tonal curve, you can increase the black point, you can increase the shadow softness. This is creating those kind of milky gray in the shadow to create the filmic density and the filmic look in your frame. And film split tone, I'm not going to talk about it here. Basically, you can split your shadows, your highlight, etc. You can change the hue. For example, I want cyan to be in the shadow, or I want whatever color I want it to be in the shadows, or mid-tone or highlight, can do it manually. So that is the process you can do as well. Next, we can go to color density. This is the part that really changed the game, because it's following the subtractive color science. As you dense out the color, more color dye will block more light. So this is the entire filmic treatment. Look at what happens when I increase the global density. It makes the image looks more saturated. At the same time, it's not brightening the image. Look at how organic is the density. But if I try color swap, when I increase the global saturation, look at what happens. This is the RGB kind of treatment of all the additive saturation tools out there in the world. That's the huge difference between the additive color science when you add colors is RGB at white, versus you are adding more saturation at the same time is lowering the luminance. You are getting a film level of saturation. This is the dream and transformation you always want to see in yourself. So color swap comes in, like what I say, very easy for you to swap the colors. For example, now red, I can just use the red hue to swap them. I have all the channel masks, so you can see exactly what your software is seeing. You can control the range of the selection, and then you can use the red to change to purple. You can change to green, you can change to any color you want. That is that powerful. For example, green, in this case, I want to make it more cyan. I can increase the range to expand on the selection of the green, and then I can rotate the hue to make it more orange. So I can build a palette right with these tools. So this is called secondary color grading, where we are swapping and turning the colors. And you can do, I can make red less dense, but I make cyan denser. So I have all the active control to build any look we want. Of course, this is a bit too exaggerated, too much color. Once you have done the grading, you realize sometimes when you turn on the scope, you realize there's too much color in the frame. Actually, too much color might not be a wise decision overall. You look at how widespread is the color that we're having here. Therefore, there are film mixer, which is the last step, tertiary color grading, which is really about removing the distraction of the color. For example, I want to build teal and orange palette. Look at what happened when I increase the slider. You will massage all the colors to form a linearized line along teal and orange palette. Or if I can go to teal and pink, I will massage everything to become teal and pink palette. This cuts the chase and cuts all the distraction to form a very distinct Hollywood blockbuster kind of palette. And you can manually remix them as well. For example, I can increase teal and orange, I can increase magenta and green. I can get a balance of both look, and I can use the respective RGB slider to make a difference. So this is how powerful you can get. And of course, we need to talk about film separation. Once you have done the palette, sometimes you see it's almost touching the box, which means it's clipping our monitors. So sometimes we can use the separations to bring the colors back. So this is stretching the colors specifically along the vectors. So red and cyan vector scope, magenta and green axis. So it's axis level of control of color separations. So this really gives that final touch that you want to simulate. And next, we can use the green and yellow kind of palette and last stage is film printer lights, where we are injecting color to colors that are not on, or we call that on set, or match different time of the day. For example, I shoot something in the morning, I want to match the afternoon. I can use increase green and increase yellow to get the afternoon sun kind of look. Look at how that one single tweak add that very nice thing to the result. And you look at the protection mask, it's only applying those areas because of shadow and skin protection. It's as good as depth map. So once you have done this grade, look at how gorgeous it is. This is the before. This is after. Of course, this is a very bold look. When we try to copy and paste to another shot, look at how well the grade stays. And if you don't like the look, you can generate a different look with CinePalette AI, which is graded through the previous work you have done. And the beauty about the generate look function of CinePalette AI is you can go down to all the final parameters like color density, etc. to make the changes. For example, make overall more dense and copy the grade, come back again, and you will work across all shots because you are actually doing professional grading work, and it's all 32-bit float mask. So one shot it will work, the whole entire sequence will work. Look at how gorgeous this result is from the before and after. And we just tweak the generate look together with global density. And that's what we do. And of course, we can go down to film mixer. We can make it less teal and orange, make it teal and pink. You can get totally entirely different results. So this is the power of PFA Color Suite. And we graded the entire production with this. You can go to a bold look. You can go to a neutral look. It's totally up to you. So I hope by the end of this, you can understand how powerful the PFA Color Suite engine is. Really an AI color grading pipeline that have all the 32-bit float math kind of tools in. So what you need to do, download the free trial, get it and try out 13.3. We have extended the trial period, so you basically get unlimited trials right now. Every time it dims up, you just quit the plugin, open again, then you will get a fresh of another 60 minutes, which you can try again. We have almost 1,500 worldwide users right now with paid licenses. So what you can do once you decide to commit to a license, use Thank You 2026 to enjoy 40% off. That's all for this episode. My name is Nash, Passion Fuels Ambition. I shall see you in the next one.